Hello, I'm Michael Koffler, and I'm joined today by my colleague Bria Adams. And we are here today to talk about three topics: custody, proxy voting, and GIPS 2020. Bria?
The SEC's Fall 2019 regulatory agenda states that it's considering updates to its custody rule to modernize and improve. Custody begins with physical custody or physical possession, but also includes authority and access to client funds and securities. The SEC staff has noted that delivery versus payment, or DVP, minimizes the risk of misappropriation of funds and securities. But the SEC is also considering, with its recent solicitation of comments, how non-DVP custodial practices and digital assets are triggered under the custody rule. The SEC staff plans to utilize its comments received to inform its rulemaking in the future. In August 2019, the SEC published a notice relating to proxy advisor voting. The SEC's release states that establishing the scope of an advisor's authority and responsibilities might include voting arrangements that vary based on a client's best interest. Demonstrating that voting determinations in a client's best interest might include differing voting strategies based on a client's objectives or investment strategy. And retaining a proxy advisor firm might include looking at the capacity and competency of the firm, but also the quality of its services. Factual errors, incompleteness, or flawed methodology might require an advisor to periodically review a proxy advisor firm's research and voting recommendations. Evaluating the services of a proxy advisor firm might include identifying and evaluating their conflicts of interest and how they deal with those conflicts of interest. And also, the SEC noted that when an advisor may abstain from voting, might occur in two instances: when they have agreed in advance that they will limit their voting authority, but also when it's in the client's best interest to refrain from voting. Michael?
Thanks, Bria. With respect to GIPS 2020, GIPS, remember, is a voluntary standard used to calculate and present performance information. The goal is to allow firms to present apples-to-apples comparisons so that investors and others have an equal chance to see what the performance is. GIPS 2020, the latest version, came into effect January 1st, 2020. And the driving force behind this version is to allow GIPS to be followed and used by alternative asset managers. In addition, the new structure is less complex than the prior version, and a lot of the guidance that appeared in FAQs and other sources like guidance statements are now in the rule itself. There are other benefits for alternative asset managers, and I'm going to discuss a few examples. Under the old regime, you had a very specific set of rules to follow in calculating performance depending on the asset class that you managed. Now you have flexibility. You can use an IRR or a TWR if certain conditions are met. Under the old regime, you had to have every portfolio in a composite. That's not true anymore. There is flexibility not to include funds in a composite if certain conditions are met. Similarly, firms are allowed to present performance for assets that they do not manage. Other examples of the increased flexibility are that you can now estimate transaction costs instead of following a specific rule of using actual transaction costs. When you acquire a firm that is non-compliant with GIPS, you have a year to fall into compliance for that firm, and you only have to comply on a prospective basis only. Carve-outs. Firms are allowed to allocate cash to carve-outs, which increases our flexibility with respect to that type of portfolio. Certain disclosures no longer have to be provided after the first year if certain conditions are met, including the fact that the disclosure is not relevant. So you can see that GIPS is trying to present performance and allow alternative asset managers an ability to comply. Thank you for joining us today. For more information about asset management regulation in 2020 and other bottom line videos, please visit eversheds-sutherland.com. Thank you.